So most of us have those days where we're just chilling back, we're just listening to music with our friends, have their iPod on, we see what song they're listening to, and we want to download it. And we go to our peer-to-peer programs and we download the music. Well, we really don't consider like the problems that the implications that come up with downloading the music. But representatives of the music industry like the RIAA and BPI have otherwise and have quite explicitly stated that piracy is destroying the music industry. The basis for their argument is that overall CD sales have plummeted 16% for the year because of the aforementioned piracy. It couldn't be that the economy is horrible in the first place. Instead, they presuppose that people that wouldn't otherwise buy the music are damaging their industry. Well, mostly I'm trying to, my overall argument is that that piracy doesn't harm the industry substantially. And to substantiate that with evidence, my first point I would like to illustrate is that a considerable amount of people that pirate music wouldn't buy the legally obtained music in the first place. I mean, if you're going to download the music, I mean, it's just simply not likely that you're going to, if you just don't have any intention of buying music that you, or downloading the music that you hear and buying it, you're just not going to buy it in the first place. First, I mean, there's other reasons too, where first, the prices of CDs are too high for certain groups of consumers, making it highly unlikely for them to buy a CD in the first place. This can be seen in how it was reported of a website called allmp3.com. It was a Russian website which basically got a license to distribute music from the Russian government based upon a radio license, and it basically worked out from the Russian standpoint. BPI got a hold of this problem, and they came to Russians and basically had a cease and desist because it was selling a substantial amount. And they were selling it because mainly because it was $2 to $3. And this shows that basically showed that people are willing to buy CDs as long as it's within their buying power, not as long as it's within their buying power. Also, music there's also music that's out of print. I mean, there's some music that's just so old that like you're simply not going to get it. It's not going to affect your sales whatsoever. I mean, you're simply not printing it. It's just not going to happen. You're just not going to get the money from it in the first place. But somehow, with the Jamie case back in 2005, she got charged $1.92 million for downloading 24 songs that simply wouldn't be getting money off of it anyways. My second point is that piracy actually helps music sales in that it creates devoted followers that may not spend money on CDs but will spend money on live performances and the distribution of the pirated content. May give samples to people that will buy content after hearing it. Many people may not have the buying power or feel the need to buy a CD because the CD, of course, is not an important part of music. It's the artists themselves. Having the ability to hear the music of an artist significantly increases the chances of a potential fan being made. Secondly, it was found that from a survey of 2,100 Canadian households, that a substantial number of those that enjoyed pirate music were likely to go out and buy the music later after treating the illegal files as more like samples than as their own property. Simply, I mean, there's millions of CD sales, that's true. But there's also millions of fans who go to concerts, and we got to factor in the live performances within the music industry. The live performances generate large amounts of money, and people are more likely to go to live performances if they don't have a CD or whatever and support their artists rather than buy the CD. Secondly, a substantial amount of people were actually buying the music. They're treating the music as samples, so when they downloaded it, they later on went and bought the albums, and they generate sales. My last point is that the state of the economy is in right now wouldn't allow for significant growth in this industry. First of all, before the economy hit its slump in 1999, they were releasing 38,700 new hits those years, and have been releasing at least 30,000 new hits every year since 1995. Then they then cut their new releases by 12,000 and 2,000 and subsequently disabled themselves from those sales. Secondly, unemployment increased 3% by 2003 from a relatively constant upward shift. Less people simply had less buying power because they had no jobs. The correlation that the representatives from the music industry drew from the downloading statistics are simply incorrect and should have been substantiated by more evidence. Because simply, I mean, you see the economy and it's simply not in a good state. They're simply not going to generate CD sales or album sales or any type of digital sales because they're not appealing to people that have the buying power to buy that CDs because they simply don't have the money. And so basically, I'd like to conclude and say that it doesn't affect music piracy doesn't affect the music industry. And that's it.
All right, it takes a while, but you do get to the proposition. There's no preview of what the supporting structure is going to consist of. You do label the points as you get to them pretty clearly, but they're not always phrased as claims, and that's a little bit awkward. A couple of times you're presenting evidence and you're drawing inferences from that evidence, and I'm not exactly sure how you're connecting those points. Your whole example of the Russian licensing issue is not very clear at all. The first point is all an assumption. You don't have any proof on that first point. Later on, you've got a claim where you're saying that people who downloaded the music treated it as a sample, and then they later went out and bought the music as well, but I don't get any source citation or information on that. You did provide some statistical information on decreasing availability of certain kinds or certain music, the number of releases declining, and some correlation to unemployment statistics. I didn't think that that was as clear as it needed to be, but you made an attempt to make some inferences there. The relationship to the live music business is not clear at all. What does that have to do with the amount of sales of recorded music, and why would it be substantially different before the availability of downloading versus after the availability of downloading? There's got to be some explanation of that. All right, thank you.